BJ O'Neill here with Business Coach Mastery, the video training all about the difference between strategies and tactics. I'm going to break this down in twofold. Number one, on how to build a successful business coaching practice, as well as how to help business owners succeed in growing their profits and their revenues. Now, real quickly, if you don't know, we serve 60 plus Christian business men, Christian business coaches all over the country, supplying them a done-for-you business coaching system. If you're curious about that, there might be a button on this screen, or you can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. Learn more about it, schedule a time to chat if you'd like to talk about how it could potentially work for you, and we'll go from there. Now, real quick, our style, our technique, just our framework is all about relationships, adding value for longevity. Period. However, as I've gotten older and got a few gray hairs to prove that's true, I have understood more and more the difference between strategy and tactics. But in working with a lot of coaches, I see all the time this is still an issue in two ways: building the coaching business, working with business clients as well. Okay? And so we have to understand that you cannot just run at tactics without understanding the strategy. Period. You need to make sure you understand the difference between the two. Examples: building the coaching business. There's basically three ways that you have to solve these three ways in developing and building a solid business coaching business. And I talk about this all the time in our trainings and our podcasts. You probably have heard me say this if you listen to any of our stuff. Number one, where do I get leads and clients? Number two, how do I convert those clients into ongoing, high-paying monthly clients? And the third, how do I coach them to get results in a simple, step-by-step manner? You got to solve those things. Well, in the very beginning of building a coaching business, number one, clearly leads and clients is going to be where we're going to spend a lot of time. And there's basically 8 ways that you're ever going to use to be able to do that. All right. All of them work. The question is, which one is the right fit for you? Here's the issue, and I want you to avoid this if you haven't started your coaching business, or maybe you're early into it, or maybe you're making this mistake right now. I want you to change what you're doing, is that you cannot just go and do it. Example, networking is a big one. You need to have solid network. You need to know people right now. You need to know those people who, you need to know people that they know. You need to know people they know, and so on and so on and so on. And you should have an art to master the ability to build your network. Now, set that aside. Networking, Chamber of Commerce's, networking groups, LinkedIn, all the different ways. So they all work. But here's what happens, or here's the problem. A lot of coaches will just go do it without building a plan of strategy first. So we'll use the local one to start with. You just go to a local networking event. You put no thought into it whatsoever. You just show up. They've got let's say it's just the mixer event type of thing. You show up, you get the hors d'oeuvres, you kind of talk to a few people, you kind of leave early, you move on, and you end up saying, well, I tried the networking thing. It didn't really work for me. Well, it didn't work because there was no strategy. And at a top level, strategy is, I know what I'm going to plan to do prior to the event. I know what I'm going to do during the event. And I know what I'm going to do after the event. And I'm just using networking as an example that applies to anything that you do, right? So you want to have strong plans, but you want to strategically, and over time, you're going to adjust the strategy as things begin to work, or they didn't work. This worked better here. Maybe this type of the season, this type of strategy works different. You can't just go do it. You have to think it through, build your plans, analyze your plans, the results afterwards, and adjust. Okay? So just going and doing it, that's tactic. Taking off with just a strategy alone. Now, I will tell you, got a lot of coaches who, I say a lot, we've got coaches who spend a lot of time in strategy, but they don't go do it. So they like to whiteboard, they like to plan, they like to flip chart it, they like to do all these different things, which is great. I do too. I'm a big believer. Again, you got to build the plans, but at some point, you got to take imperfect action. You're not going to know every little thing to do. Look, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I still don't always know the right thing to do. We spend a lot of money on paid lead gen. And even though we've been doing that for a decade, I've got a lot of skills in that area just because I've done it for a long time. There's still areas where it's like, well, that didn't work, but it did last month or last year. What changed? And you got to strategically kind of work through that process. And so all I'm going to encourage you with right now is you got to pull strategy and tactics together. We have to start with strategy. We have to move them into the to-dos. That's the tactics. But you got to just go start doing it. Taking imperfect action, adjusting, or bailing on it, provided you've been consistent enough and you've taken a long enough time to master it, and determining maybe this is not the right strategy for me, or you have found one that is better. That's a different conversation. So that's strategy and tactics in building a solid business coaching business. Now, let's look at strategies in working with a business owner, okay? This is important. This is really important about what I'm about to share with you. As you're building relationships, as you're getting to know business owners, leads and prospects especially, you want to begin to help them and persuade them to see the difference between strategy and tactics. You could ask them, so tell me currently about your lead acquisition plan, or what's your customer referral process like? Like, what's your pricing strategy like? And as they begin to kind of just share with you, you're going to start to see if they've spent a lot of time in strategy or they've spent a lot of time in the tactics. Okay? For instance, if you said, hey, curious about your reactivation plan. And key word here is that when you're asking a question like that, I want to say the word plan because I don't want to give away. I want them on their own to share with me because someone who is baked in strategy, they're going to kind of lean with, well, first, strategically, we do this because X, Y, and Z. You're going to start to know, okay, I'm working with somebody who understands the difference in strategy and tactics. You don't want to just go in and just tell them how it works. You want to get a sense. You want to listen. You want to understand. You want to build some trust. You want to understand their needs, all that. And so as you go through it, they just start telling you. Then you can ask, well, what was the strategy that went into doing it that way? And if they're kind of fumbling around, they're not really then they likely don't have a lot of strategy. Now, we don't want to correct them. We're not trying to humiliate them. We're not trying to tell them they're wrong. None of that. We're just trying to understand why it matters. And so here's a great way to explain strategy to a business owner. And remember, a lot of amazing men and women all over the world who own businesses, but many of them, they are overly focused on their industry and their trade, and they're not focused on business building strategies, okay? Some of it they just don't know. And when you don't know what you don't know, right? And so here's a great example. Many years ago, and I use this all the time in conversations, so if you've heard me say this, it's redundant by design. Many years ago, there was no value meals. There was no combo meals in fast food restaurants until one day, years ago, a smart executive at McDonald's said, you know what, we're going to ask a question. We're going to ask a question. It's a question of strategy at every point of sale. If they're buying a hamburger, they're buying a Coke, they're getting an apple pie, whatever. Inside the restaurant, the drive-thru, we're going to ask a question. And that question is, would you like fries with that? So the strategy was called bundling. They wanted to see if they asked the question about would you like fries with that order, what would happen? Well, guess what? Overnight, their profits and their revenues increased by over 30% because enough people said, sure. Now, they weren't asking for the fry, but the strategy was, could we bundle the fry with other things? Now, what ended up happening is what you know. They became value meals, they became combo meals, and it changed the industry as a whole. So when you use stories like that and examples like that, it begins to open up the mind of a business owner to understanding why strategies matter to grow a business. Okay? Really, really important to do that. And as you begin to share those ideas and as you begin to share those examples, it opens up their mind to go, because I can tell you, in my experience working with a lot of businesses and working through a lot of coaches and their clients, many businesses don't really understand the strategies to incrementally compound together to grow businesses. And that's why I wanted to share with you ultimately today. That there's a difference between strategies and tactics. Tactics is we need a website. Tactics is we gotta price this. Tactics is we gotta have a service vehicle. Tactics, like all of the different things that are to-dos or tasks, really. So strategy, though, says, well, but why do you need them? And what are you going to do to make them powerful? Strategy is, in helping a business, is saying that, okay, you're currently at 10% net profit right now. By the way, the average profit margin in America is 10%. That's not amazing. And by the way, when a business that has a 10% margin like that, in most cases, it's not, when they want to exit and sell it, it's not mega attractive in a lot of cases, because the word average means there's a lot of people doing worse. There's some that are doing better. And this doesn't take a lot of effort to be able to increase the revenues and the profits when you understand the strategies to use. So my biggest point in this training, hope it comes across, is really for you as a coach to really harness the power of strategy and tactics, both in building your business coaching business and both with helping business owners grow their business as well. And the more you have a heart for mastering, the more you have a heart for just consistency. You talk about it all the time. You read books about it. You watch documentaries about it, and so on and so on and so on. You're going to start to develop this keen sense of awareness when you see a billboard, when you talk to a business owner, when you see an ad come through your mailbox. You'll see tactics versus strategies every single day. I'll give you an example. You probably get magazines in your mailbox for your community, or get the Val packs or whatever. You'll see the same type of business. I'll use a driveway, concrete repair company. One ad will say, we've been in business for 35 years. We offer these services, blah, 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 blah. All tactic driven, like all factual stuff. That's no persuasion, no emotion, no nothing, right? That means that I can tell you right now, if you see ads like that, they've spent no time in strategy. They just we needed an ad. They might have been sold the ad, who knows? And here's all just the factual things about the business, right? We take Visa and MasterCard, duh, right? But it happens every day. You go thumb through those types of publications and you'll see them. Versus when you see a concrete repair company lead with a big, bold question in the headline, are you tired of seeing that ugly crack in your driveway? When you see ads like that, that is somebody, or at least whoever wrote the ad, used strategy, because that's emotions, that's someone who knows what they're doing. And so you'll start, as you just get a love and a feel for strategy and tactics, you'll start to see it everywhere. You'll go to restaurants, you'll go to clothing stores, whatever, and you'll just see the difference between strategy and tactics all day long. And then as you begin to do it for yourself, as you begin to help your clients, you're going to see a dramatic shift and change and increase of growth for you and for them. Hope that makes sense. Have a heart, have a passion, have a desire to master the art of strategy and tactics. All right? Until next time, take care.